Liverpool. They beat Tottenham Hotspur 2-1 in the Premier League. How big a moment could that Lloris spill and Alderweireld own goal be this season? How big could it be in terms of the title? Pete Donaldson, I put it to you.
Lloris is having a bad season.
Not what I asked you.
It is big, but I mean, Manchester City's still in the driving seat because obviously they've got a game in hand, and I imagine they'll.
Man City's still in the title race.
Just about.
But if they drop points, it's an exciting run-in. Actually, they're calling it on Sky's website.
SkySports.com?
SkySports.com.
No
Yeah,
way.
we all love it.
Yeah.
It's up there with RambleLive.com in many ways. Get your tickets now. Gary Neville was quoted saying they'll be ready for the run-in, and they put run-in in capital letters. So I'm thinking that Sky's going to use run-in as their kind of like the end of season kind of
Branding.
giving it a big league. So run-in is my tip for the word of the summer.
Do you remember Survival Sunday?
Yeah.
Survival Sunday is always a big one.
We like a run-in because last season it was a walk-in, quite frankly.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But it's not the first time, and people making a thing of this, not the first time Liverpool have got a fortuitous winner late on this season. Of course, Pickford, his error in the Everton game, and I think there was Speroni for Palace was there, and whatnot. And
they knock on the door, though, don't they?
They knock on that door.
You'd rather be a lucky general than a good one.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, you could argue that Liverpool didn't deserve to win the game. I mean, certainly it could have gone the other way. But you look at Liverpool's home form. Here's a stat for you. Liverpool's total of 79 points is their best tally after 32 matches of a top-flight season. And that's adjusting for 3 points for a win, surpassing the 76 they had in 1987-88. That's how good they are. But, of course, if Man City win their game in hand, they go top of the league by a point, don't they? So Liverpool... Is it luck? Is it perseverance? I mean, yes, of course, there's an enormous slice of luck the way Lloris spills the ball and it just tamely goes in and infuriating if you're a Spurs fan. But if you're a Liverpool fan, there are these things. Now, you could say, well, hang on, are we destined to win the league? We've had a little helping hand. Or you could say, well, do you know what? Liverpool are just getting over the line in certain games, whereas Man City don't look like they're failing at all.
But the thing is, though, I mean, Man City have ground out a few wins, and people say the whole sign of good team thing.
True.
Whereas people seem reluctant to do that for Liverpool. And I don't really understand why that is. I think that was what Klopp has been criticised for and Liverpool have been criticised for in the last 2 or 3 seasons, that they don't have that versatility. And now they're displaying it and people are saying it's a sign of weakness.
Yeah, that's a fair point, actually.
And it's no coincidence that Liverpool are undefeated at home this season, and those wins in the league, and those wins come along in a variety of different ways. Sometimes they blow teams away. Sometimes they sneak it like they did at the weekend. Yeah, they're top of the table for a reason, right? Their away form their away record in the Premier League this season is the best in the league, and their home record is second best, just behind Man City's by a point. So, it's no coincidence that this kind of thing happens to them. Because they're a good team, and that's a hallmark of a good team.
I tell you what, I do love an Andy Robertson cross.
That was one of the best crosses of the season. It's a
glorious.
fantastic
Him and Trent
cross.
Alexander-Arnold putting the balls in from wide. It's so good
such
for
a weapon.
Liverpool.
It was so good a cross that it would have been an absolute insult to not score.
Yes.
Because do you know why? Because if he hadn't have scored Firmino, then it would have been a forgotten passage of play, and that cross deserved more than that.
A bit like Luke Shaw's pass for Rashford against Watford.
Yes.
If Rashford, who finished quite nice, it's such a great pass from Shaw. You want them to be put away. You want that. It deserves
Lovely
an
finish
assist.
as well, wasn't it, for
It's a
Rashford?
lovely finish, yeah. But back to Liverpool. But Firmino, perfect striking play. A header in that position. You head it down, bounce off the ground. No goalkeeper that will ever exist, robotic or otherwise, will save that.
Gordon Banks
Oh yeah, that's a point.
famously made a career of it.
No. But that was.
It's only
before.
Pele, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, true.
But Pele recently tweeted that whole game had to be replayed because the fans were so upset about it. And then when in the replay, he actually scored.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I thought I was right. But Robertson was man of the match. He's had a great season for Liverpool. There's no doubt about that. But Liverpool, when they need to swarm, they swarm. When they need to go forward, and that was. Talk about I need to call it the Klopp, which would be appropriate, I suppose. The Klopp sucking the ball into the goal.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want more further evidence, I'm actually pretty sure that Uri Geller was in the crowd because there was definitely
100%
some force.
And he's got a lot on at the moment.
He's got an awful lot on.
That's how thrilling this title race is.
If Geller's getting involved, it's a good one. But how damaged is this for Spurs? They're only a point above 6th placed Chelsea. The race for the top 4 third and fourth really is a fascinating.
It's really
it's
exciting.
become fascinating.
1
isn't
point
it?
separates them.
4
I
teams,
think
yeah.
Arsenal got a game in hand there.
Oh, what fest did you just say, Jim?
You what? Sorry.
You said it was something fest.
Oh, I didn't.
Oh, did you not? I'm sorry,
I've
I thought-
forgotten what I said.
I think Jim said it's a Champions League hopeful fest.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
And
Yeah.
I want to put something to the table.
Uh-huh.
I'm not saying this is my opinion, but I think it's worthy of discussion.
Move the food out of the way.
Spurs, very good.
Come on.
Spurs have got a lot of home games left.
Yeah.
And the reason they've got a lot of home games left, I think they've got, if you include the Champions League, and they've got, actually let's not include that because it doesn't count towards the league. They've got 5 home games left. Now the reason for that clearly is because they front loaded a lot of their away games because of this new stadium. I know Liverpool have done it in the past because of their main stand being open at Anfield. Is it fair that we get into a situation where a team has now got a load of home games?
Yeah.
Now, you might say, oh, yeah, but they played all the away games earlier in the season. Yes, they did when their players were fresher, when there wasn't as many suspensions and injuries and all the rest of it. Is it, not fatally, but is it damaging the competition
Yeah.
for a team to be allowed to be in that position?
I think it is. We've talked about this before, though. I've said they should do it in the summer. That's the only time they should do it.
Well, it's just as well because it's just as well they're playing Man City in Manchester. Because if Man City had to go to Spurs' new stadium for that fixture, I know they will in the Champions League, but I'm talking about Premier League.
Yeah.
That could give Spurs an edge there. Now, Spurs, the great thing for Liverpool is really they're looking at Spurs doing them a favour against Man City.
Yeah.
That's the one.
I know they've still got
isn't it?
haven't they still got the Manchester derby.
Yes, having chatted to a few Man United fans, I think they'd rather Man City won the league than Liverpool. So
Right.
we'll, I'm not going to question
isn't it?
I'm not going to question the players' integrity there.
I know
But
with
an
the
atmosphere in a stadium can.
I know with the stadium, I mean, you say they should do it in the summer. I know these projects are so big that it's impossible. But I think you mean the transition should be in
The transition should be
okay, right.
it's a completely unlevel playing
And
field. But that said, if they lose their first match, it could be a kind of West Ham kind of situation, and they just stink up the place for the last 5 matches anyway. So
I can't see that happening when the season has started, though. I think there's such momentum at Spurs at the moment, and they're so excited about the
Did you
stadium.
watch them
And rightly
play at
so,
the
'cause it looks amazing. Yeah,
Well,
no,
they could
but
have got something though. It's not.
I think moving into a new stadium like that will energise them.
Is it fair to say this won't be the most successful stadium migration of all time?
Already been done,
considering
mate.
What's happened?
well, you're
I don't
effectively
think that can be
playing
touched.
5 matches away because you haven't played there before.
True
This is
enough,
all
yeah.
new to me.
Sissoko had a chance late on.
He did, and I thought
Yeah.
Van Dijk's defending in that position was very good.
I'm glad you said that because I thought he was very effective in what he did.
His body movement was brilliant.
It was excellent. Any young defenders watching that
Yeah.
should take note that clearly Sissoko wants to play the ball to Son there.
Yes.
Son is a better finisher, but also as well, I think when you're driving forward and you've got a defender, you can slip the other man in who's ready to go and naturally plays further up the field. And Van Dijk is very difficult for a defender because I think one of the Rangers defenders tried to do this. It's slightly different actually. We'll talk about the old firm in a bit, but when he comes forward and Van Dijk is essentially thinking, right, what do I do here? Because if you don't do either, then you can
Well,
get
the
completely caught
old
out.
textbook will tell you you go to the ball, right?
Yeah.
But he has his position in such a way that he stops the pass.
Yes.
And now I'll admit that he's got a little bit of knowledge in the back pocket that Moussa Sissoko has scored a grand total of 0 Premier League goals this season, which would be a bit of an insurance policy.
That's right.
But he was positionally so good because he was close enough to Sissoko to make him think, but in the right position to stop the pass. And
I mean,
think
Sissoko got the shot away. In hindsight, if
it was a
Sissoko-
shot of sorts, wasn't it?
Yeah, but if he scores, obviously, but that's the thing is, what we're saying is Van Dijk is clearly second favourite for all of those
Yeah,
scenarios.
it's 2-on-1, yeah.
So if Sissoko actually scored that, you wouldn't think, oh, that's bad
Yeah.
defending. It was actually in hindsight because he blazed it over the
He was
bar
excellent.
and he put him onto his left foot and made Sissoko, as you say, who doesn't score very many at all. Take
Doesn't
the
score
shot.
any.
Yeah, it doesn't score any ever
in the Premier League.
Not even in training, I hear.
But the error, the Lloris error, was. I mean, I obviously didn't see the game live because I was doing something else. We'll talk about that later. But the error was something that is punctuated Lloris's season.
Yeah.
And he seems to always have that in his locker. Sadly,
Jermaine Jeans made a really great point about this so much today too, which was for every late penalty save, you get one of those, and it is costing Spurs points at this point. And it's like,
Yeah.
I mean,
he should have eaten that up, shouldn't he? That header. It was a really tame header. I know it's late in the game, bit of fatigue. He's got players around him. Always when we talk about goalkeeping errors, and we talked about it with the goal, De Gea's one, where the ball just went into the centre of the goal when he was bamboozled by the swerve on the ball. I felt then, and I also still feel now, that for most of us, if not all of us who aren't goalkeepers, it's always harder than it looks. Always.
Yeah,
and I think if you make a mistake, it's done. It's absolutely done, and that's what happened.
Indeed, it was. Yeah.
Still, it's Toby's name on the old score sheet, though, isn't it? So Hugo won't mind that.
Yeah, we mentioned Van Dijk there. He's going to have to move home soon. With Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, his landlord, being given the Man United job, of course, on a permanent basis.
Have to pack up all his cups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine all the doors in the house are really low down, so he's probably happy to move. Because Solskjaer's quite diminutive.
I can see a situation where he has to move before the end of the season. Liverpool win the Premier League. Van Dijk gets drunk because he's celebrating, and he goes home to the wrong house and wakes up Ole Gunnar. It looks like he's lording it up over a rival team's manager.
Never understood people who go to their old house because they're that done in.
I've done it before.
Have you?
Not because I was so drunk, but because I was on autopilot. My mum, when we moved house once, my mum got so far as to try and couldn't work out why a key wouldn't fit in the front door.
Brilliant.
Oh, no.
Of someone else's house.
I've got a lot of time for that.
So imagine if Virgil did that.
Surely Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's not going to kick him out before the end of the season, or is he?
Do it.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
If you're listening, Ole, do it.
Try and derail Liverpool's title bid.
Yeah.
The night before a game.
Oh, my goodness.
What happened? Why didn't you win the title? Our rival team's manager made our best defender homeless.
Yeah. In the middle of the night.
Yeah.
He put
crucial game.
asbestos in the walls.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But yeah, a great win for Liverpool, though. The title race continues to bounce
What do you
on.
think? Make a call. What do you think?
I said, Matt, I think Man City will
I
just,
do as well.
I
do.
do. I'll put it right out there. I'd rather Liverpool.
Right.
Not because I have vested interest in
Just
either
something new,
side.
innit?
It's something
Yeah.
different. To be honest, in this day and age, I know it's small fry, and I know the way a lot of the big clubs source their money. Some can be questionable. Man City's is extremely questionable, perhaps at the top of the list of that. I honestly think it would be good for football if Liverpool won the league.
Absolutely.
But if Man City win, well done. I'd be happy for you as well. So
Yeah.
don't bother tweeting.
I think, I want to see Liverpool win it just again because it's interesting. But also, a lot of the things that people say against that, it's like, oh God, if Liverpool win the league, you know what their fans are like, we'll never hear the end of it. But like, if you're a Liverpool fan, where everyone's going, you've never won the Premier League, and people are having a go at you for the idea of never hearing the end of it, I think you'd probably be a bit annoyed about that. So,
I've got loads of stuff here about Neil Warnock. Can we do that?
Of course, yeah. Let's move on to Cardiff.
ShutTheFootballRamble.com if you want to get involved. And if you want to get your tickets to the live show, it's ramblelive.com.
Nice one, PT. Late comeback from Chelsea, of course. Left old Neil Warnock gutted, and he was gutted, and he had every right to be gutted.
Yeah.
It was
That image of him
disgraceful.
just stood looking at the officials with his head, with his hands
His
on
hands on his
head.
hips, isn't it?
I thought his head. I mean, either way, his hands were displaying how disgusted
Hands
he
on his
was.
hips. He was, as Neil Warnock, he was putting a curse on the...
Yeah.
He was trying
the
to curse
hairline
us.
visibly receded.
Yeah, he wasn't like a bull, getting the old kicking the dust out of the way and ready to attack. He looked a bit defeated, and I do actually worry for Cardiff now.
Yeah.
Because you saw Warlock there, and it's going to take a big effort now for him to get the players going after they lost that one. To lose it in the manner they did. I mean, you saw, what's his name? The man of the match, Aaron Gunnarsson.
Gunnarsson, yeah.
Yeah, you saw his
He's
reaction.
fuming, yeah.
And even if they got a point, if it's a late header for 1-1, you've still got a point there. The manner in which they lost it, the offside goal, come on.
Yeah.
And it really is damaging for Cardiff City now. 5 points. Okay, they have a game in hand on Burnley,
but that's Man City away.
yeah, exactly. That's the problem.
What was the television's explanation for?
Well, presumably you didn't see it.
There was no explanation.
Was
'cause
there
they
not
don't give. They don't give him.
Was there not a player stood in the way? That's the theory.
Well, that's what people
Or
have
in
said.
the
The
guidelines.
explanation is he didn't
Which
see
is
it.
obviously not good enough.
But
There was no kind of this phase of play, that phase of play. He just didn't see it.
The
I
official,
just thought he might have thought it came off the defender rather than the.
Well, either
could
or,
never
he
know.
obviously thought he wasn't offside.
but the officials don't come out and explain the decisions very often, if at all, anywhere. And I can understand Warlock being gutted because
That
clearly,
could relegate him.
yeah, could do.
Well, when people say, they even it out over a season, I understand the point of that, and yes, it's true. But on another hand, it's not true because that really has cost Cardiff that decision. You'd imagine they'd hang on for at least a point, maybe all three, and that is absolutely massive. And as I say, it's going to take a monumental effort because.
At what point does Neil Warnock's reaction to the decision become irresponsible?
Well, this is it. He and that's why I'm concerned for him and Cardiff. But I thought he was on the edge of that very much so.
because he said to TalkSport after the game, when I came in yesterday, my wife said to me, "Darling, if you had wanted to thump the referee and linesman, I wouldn't have stopped you." Can't really say that.
No,
No.
that's silly. But look at the context of where Neil Warnock is in his career. This is going to be one of the last seasons he manages. The situation Cardiff have found themselves in this season, due to the obviously awful circumstances with Emiliano Sala, emotions are running high, and that sort of thing is going to perhaps bring that out. it's gonna burst that bubble, and you're gonna get that sort of volcanic eruption. And obviously, he needs to keep himself in check a lot more. But I think that's why the sort of almost volcanic fury
I can
of it has
understand.
come
I can
out.
understand him being annoyed. I just think that sort of language is pretty irresponsible. I also think
and that's
by the way-
after the game.
Exactly.
That's after the game when he's had the time. To
I
think.
also think the assistant referee should be demoted for it, because if you're going to be an assistant referee and you're going to miss something that obvious, regardless of the circumstances,
Well, either or,
You can't-
but
you can't
officials
do
make
that.
mistakes. But if we're talking about Cardiff and Warnock, like you say, they're away to Man City next. They could get hammered there. Now, off the back of that, then you get a hammering. Your 5 point, their goal difference is far inferior to that of Burnley's and most other teams. In fact, all other teams above them. And then after that, they have a huge one against Burnley. It's absolutely massive.
but that's
that
the
one.
must-win one. That is.
That is the massive, the massive
massive.
must-win one.
That is the
You're
massive.
absolutely right. So it really is gutting for Cardiff, and I'm not even going to do the Neil Warnock impression.
Do it a little bit.
Oh, I'm absolutely gutted because of the manner of it, and I genuinely felt sorry for him. But these things happen in football. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A curse on your grandchildren.
Yeah, I think he
People were
needs
fuming
to.
at Chelsea as well, weren't they? The fans weren't very happy with Chelsea either. So.
They were singing "We Want Sarri Out" at 1-0 down.
It looked like that tide had been stemmed. By
basically them
for
just
a bit,
picking up
but-
wins. But I mean, before this game against Cardiff, they lost, didn't they?
Yeah.
They're beaten by Everton away. It's kind of a bit of a poor result against an inconsistent team.
Good to see. No, when Chelsea, they're away to a side who could be relegated. Chelsea need to get points, but he rested one or two players and whatnot. But they need a little bit more, something to reinvigorate them, perhaps, especially going forward. It's good to see Hudson-Odoi on the bench for that game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's it. He's always a threat. You can bring him on at any time.
Didn't know.
Yeah.
Didn't bring him on. No, didn't bring him on. But
Play
you also-
him!
It's
you also-
important.
Crying
for
out
it's
loud!
important
You're going
for
to
these
lose a job!
It's important for these players to play their way into the team by playing for their international side.
How did that happen? England's the way to play your way to the Premier League now.
So weird. It's like a blind spot, isn't it? It's like Sarri's looking over the bench, going, "Who is that?"
Yeah.
he said in the press conference before the game that he didn't watch his game for England.
Why would he?
But the thing is, I understand that
Get the press on side.
I understand if you've got a lot of international players to watch, and that, I get that. But at least he said he watched 20 or 25
What's
minutes.
Pedro going to do now that's going to surprise him?
No, it's true. But also though, he said I watched 20 or 25 minutes of it, and people were saying that's a disgrace or whatever. What I think's probably happened is they've put together a tape for him,
Yeah.
and he's watched it.
Yeah.
But that's one issue. The second issue is just that what Horncastle says on the constant about Surrey is just he can't control what he says. There's some phrase in Latin, Italian which is there are no hairs on the tongue, and some people just say what they think all the time.
Right.
And he's one of he's listed as being one of these kind of people.
I mean, they wouldn't have any hairs on his tongue. All that
No,
cigarettes he
exactly.
shoots.
But do you know what I feel like saying? And I'm not saying it's always great to lie, but just say you watched it. No one's going to know.
No.
Yeah. Oh, no, you didn't. How'd you know? I'm a football manager. I watched it, all right? It was great. Yeah,
Well, if someone says to you, did you see, I don't know, that match in Serie A, like Milan versus Sampdoria or something? I'm not going to go, no, I didn't watch the game.
yeah.
All right, did you not see it? Well, I watched the highlights.
Yeah.
I saw it.
Yeah. He's under pressure because of that kind of stuff as much as anything else, I
Yeah.
think. Because on paper, they're actually doing okay. They're still in the Europa League.
They are.
They're 1 point off fourth. They weren't in the Champions League last season, etc., etc. So
They
it's
could
just
finish third.
yeah, exactly. 1 point off third. Sorry. The narrative just seems to be around Surrey that everyone thinks he's a dickhead, and he's not helping himself.
Yeah,
Aloof.
Look, he's a better manager than some of the press and whatnot are suggesting, I think, but it's a very specific type of football in a specific type of way. And I think actually he's done okay at Chelsea, considering it can be a bit of a basket case of a club. I mean, I know they've got good players and whatnot. They're a whisker away from winning a trophy, and they are still on for finishing in the top four. We'll see how that plays out. The thing for me, and it goes back to the same thing, is Chelsea have a decision to make at the end of the season. If you want Sarri, you're going to have to properly back him.
Yeah.
And I know Higuain's come in, and they've tried to do that, and he's having a little bit of time to adjust to the Premier League. And again, talking about Sarri's honesty, he said, yeah, Higuain's struggling to adapt to the league, and was too blunt and brutally honest. I felt he should have said, well, naturally, players, But then is
But
it
Marcus,
to Sarri's credit that he's a bit honest? But
earlier in the
sometimes
season, he said, "I'm finding it hard to motivate this team."
Yeah.
That's a suicidal thing to say. when you're a
Yeah,
manager of
true.
the Premier League.
Well, therefore, if he's struggling to speak in English, and it's admirable that he does speak English, and he's doing that, then maybe at times he should get a translator and speak Italian. And if that's something he's struggling with, it's easy to say, of course, from the outside looking in. But going back to the point about Chelsea, they either need to properly back him and give him a war chest and get the players in that he needs for his system, or they get rid of him. It's either one or two.
Well, it's an interesting test of the sort of new, more streamlined Chelsea's the way they operate, isn't it? To see, are we going to sort of change how we've operated for the last 10 years or so, and actually back him and maybe take that hit and be a little bit more patient, or are we going to go, no, actually we do demand success a bit sooner than that? It's going to be fascinating to see how they handle this, because as we touched on before, bringing Sarri in when he himself is with this honesty that we hear about. Says that Sarri ball, as he calls it, takes a while to implement. They always knew that this might be the case. So, are they going to be prepared to see through what they themselves have signed up to?
Yeah, it'd be nice to see Loftus-Cheek among the goals, though.
Yeah.
Not more.
Oh, it was
a couple of minutes here and there.
Yeah, exactly. See,
Something for Hudson-Odoi to aim at.
some of these young England players can do it.